What's that in Hebrew?
Yesh, yesh lo yesh, or something like that. I don't know.
Sounds good.
Yeah. If it fooled you, that's all I need.
Thank
Okay.
you for sharing.
Yeah. All right. I mentioned that last week I wanted to do mainly the Abraham story. The Isaac narrative is kind of like a swing narrative. Isaac comes out a lot as Abraham's son, or Jacob and Esau's father. All right? So he doesn't have as much of a unique role. Chapter 26 is the only place where he's going to be in his own unique story. But anyway, we got to the point about Isaac's descendants being listed. Where I want to pick it up is when they have the two children. Rebekah, like Sarah, cannot have children. Takes 20 years before she has the boys. They fight in her womb, and she says, if this is the way it's going to be forever, I don't know if I can take it. I don't know if I want it. And so I imagine there are a lot of parents who, at some time or another, have made that comment. I don't know how I can keep on going with all of that. God says there are two nations in your womb. The elder one will serve the younger. And then when she has the twins, first of all, Esau is born. And it says that he already then comes out red, his body like a hairy mantle. So some kids are born with hair, some aren't. Right?
Yeah.
And so he has more of a red complexion. Esau is his name. He later will be the head of the people of Edom, and the Edomites are going to live here to the south and east of the Dead Sea. So that's where he's going to end up. Lot's two children, Moab, children, grandchildren. Moab is going to be in here. The Ammonites are going to be up in here. And some of the Israelites are going to come over on this side of the Jordan as well. But it says the elder will serve the younger. And already at this point, when Jacob comes out, he grabs the heel of his brother. The word in Hebrew for heel, and I think it also works for a wrist, is Yaakov, which is his name. And so he is going to later show himself to be a trickster, and then his father-in-law, Laban, is going to be a trickster to him. So he's going to get his comeuppance, as it were. So when they grow up, Esau is a hunter, and Jacob is one who works with farm in the field and things like that. And so they get in fights. And so why does it say that Isaac liked Esau and Rebekah liked Jacob? We don't know why. We don't know why. It's just the way it is. Parents sometimes have favorites, don't they? Usually it's the ones that are easier to get along with. The ones that give you a lot more trouble, they're not quite as easy to love and care for. But one day, Jacob is cooking some stew, and Esau has not been able to get any game to be able to eat, and so Jacob says, I will sell you, or I'll give you a meal if you sell me the birthright. Now we're going to play with this a little bit more, and I need to keep working and going through this today so I get through it by 2, because we have a half of Genesis to get through, but this is one thing I think might prove helpful. My brother Dale and I, our dad died in 1989. And Ellen was not married at the time, and I'm not sure exactly how we would probably have handled that, because she was living in Denver, not in Ann Arbor. But if she was to get an inherited portion, so Dale and Ellen and Tom, or Dale and Tom and Ellen, each get a portion, into how many portions would we have divided the property when my mother was still alive, but when my dad died? What would we do today?
Your mother would have wanted.
Mom inherits everything.
Yeah.
Okay? That's the way their will was, that's the way it worked. Back then, it wouldn't be that way. Into how many portions would you divide the family property?
3 children.
3 children, so how many?
4.
4, why?
I don't think the mother gets anything.
Mother doesn't get anything.
Daughter doesn't get anything.
Well, I'm gonna assume Ellen would get a portion, okay? I'm gonna just play with that one right now, all right? We could either say, if Ellen doesn't get anything, then we divide it into how many portions? If Ellen, then we get it into 3 portions. If Ellen gets nothing, which is fair, I think. I hope she doesn't ever see this online or I'll be in trouble. Don't rat me out. Why 3 portions? My brother Dale is coming today, and I'm sorry he's not here, because I'd be happy to have him here to hear this. Why?
The oldest gets a double portion.
Why?
Maybe help there.
It's the birthright.
Huh? Dale has to take care of Mom.
Oh.
So he gets 2 portions. He's the older one, yeah. So Dale gets 2 portions, and he takes care of my mom, and I'm scot-free. I don't have to worry about anything. Okay? And so, what might Rebecca be thinking? I don't know if I trust my son Esau. He likes Dad, but he doesn't care that much about me. So, now this is not this chapter yet, but it will be in what follows. So she's going to make sure that Jacob gets the blessing. But if this happens, then Jacob gets the double portion, right? Because he gets the portion of the oldest son. So there's 2 things. First of all, the birthright, the birth order. The second thing, the blessing. We're going to see this when we come to the story of Jacob's sons. And we're going to see that Ephraim and Manasseh each become a portion for Joseph. And so if you look in your Bibles at the tribal portions, there is no tribe named Joseph, but Ephraim and Manasseh are both with a portion, and that's his 2 children. So the double portion shows up. And so here, now what Jacob could think is, I'll get the birthright. And I mean, they were twins, so it wasn't like it was, years later. But then Esau could be saying, well, my brother has the birthright, but Dad can say, may your 2/3, Jacob, shrivel up to nothing, you rotten criminal crook, who couldn't feed your brother some lunch. And Esau, may your 1 portion spring up to be mighty and numerous and great and glorious. So Esau still thinks he's got an ace in the hole to be able to bring that blessing later. Well, anyway, so he buys the birthright, and so Esau despairs is what's the word that's used here? What is it? Despised his birthright. So then, chapter 26. Dale, you just missed me talking about you. About dividing up portions when people die. That in the old days, you would have gotten 2 portions of Mom and Dad's possessions. I would have gotten 1. Ellen probably wouldn't have gotten anything. That's her tough luck. Yes, but then you would be responsible completely for taking care of Mom. Because the division would have been in 1989. So you still want the old days taking care of that?
So you're figuring this out now?
It took all 3 of us to take care of my mom.
Well, there's the blessing.
And to help her, so. All right, so I wouldn't want to be cheated out of that. So anyway, chapter 26. If you will look at what happens, first of all, with Abraham in chapter 12, when he went down into Egypt, he got thrown out, right? When he went down to Gerar, which is this area down in the southwestern part of the land of Israel, what later will be known as the Philistine territory, when he goes down there, then Abimelech has to give him a lot of money and ask him to pray that God will not punish Abimelech. And Sarah was taken into the harem. With the third one, with Isaac and Rebekah, Abimelech says, somebody could have taken her into their household and you could have brought sin on us. 26, there's very little here about the problem with Abimelech. Most of it is God reiterating the blessings to Isaac of what had been to Abraham. These blessings are going to come to you, I'm going to make of you a great nation, and all of those kind of things. So most of it is really just the promise. So it's not like we have three stories that are the same. But Isaac then, in chapter 26, he gets caught because he's, this is funny, because the word to sport or play or have fun is the same word as his name. Tza'ak. And so in Hebrew it's something like Yitz'ak Tza'ak. He was playing with her. And whatever kind of connotations you come up with, anything you want, fondling her, a lot of people would say, or hugging her, or being intimate with her. But he gets caught, and then Abimelech says, why didn't you tell us this? Somebody could have taken her. So Rebekah is not in the harem, like Sarah had been in both of those other circumstances. And then it says that Isaac reaps 100-fold. My member, Clarence Schrader, walked me through this. I'm sure there are other answers we could get to it, but Clarence was a farmer. And so I asked them once in Bible class back in Michigan, what's a good yield for wheat? And the best they could come up with, because they said we sow it by the pound and we reap it by the bushel. So they had to do some calculating. And Clarence said in our area in southeastern Michigan, a pretty good yield would be 40-1, which would mean 40 heads of grain on each wheat stalk. Isaac gets 100. You want to live near Isaac? If it rains on his farm, it rains on your farm. It's not bad if you sit next to someone who's very rich and hope maybe they can take care of some of your bills. Kathy and I went to a concert at Orchestra Hall many, many years ago. And I was serving over at Bethlehem on the east side, and it's one of the times when Bob Krieger had, I don't know if it was when he had his heart attack or when he had his heart surgery, but all of a sudden realized that on Sunday nights, the concerts were at 7 instead of at 8. And so it was a time during June when they had plywood over the seats downstairs, and then they had kind of where you had tables and you could sit and you could enjoy treats and all that. And we had one in the front row. So after the first piece was over, we got over there and sat down. And I'm talking in the break to the guy sitting next to me, and small talk, and what do you do for a living? He said, well, I'm a shoemaker. Well, I was doing evening college at that point, and I described him to somebody who worked for Red Wing Shoes. That was the owner, sitting right next to me. You know? And so he probably could have taken care of my treats as well. He didn't, but he could have, right? Because he must have lots of money, because he sells lots of shoes. But I described him, and this person, yeah, that was the CEO of the company that you were sitting next to. And I kind of was suspicious about that, just the way the guy talked about, I make shoes, you know. Come on, you do a little more than that. But anyway, so first
he
time,
wasn't grandiose about it. You know?
No, he wasn't going to call attention to himself at all. But I got a little suspicious, you know. And I even was suspicious enough about Red Wing to ask someone who worked for Red Wing Shoes if that was their boss. Describe, yeah, that's the guy. But now here, Isaac, if you think of it, the first thing says that those who bless you, I will bless. Those who curse you, I will curse. So we've gone from Pharaoh throwing him out to Abimelech now saying, you probably shouldn't live real close to us, and then goes back and says, we'd like to make a treaty with you. We would like to be close to you because, you know, when the blessings fall on you, they fall on us as well. And so they make a treaty, and the word Beersheba, which is either the well of the oath or the well of seven, a variety of different names come in here. And then we're told at the very end that Esau, when he is 40 years old, like his dad was 40 when he got married, that Esau marries some Hittite women. Where did he get them from? The neighborhood. Okay? Because the Hittites are there, the Hivites are a little minor group, the Girgashites, the Jebusites. There are all sorts of different groupings of people that lived there beforehand and are going to be the people who are going to be there. The Canaanites is one of the big terms for that. So anyway, we move on to chapter 27. Now it's when Isaac says, I want to bless Esau. When do you usually make out your will?
Before you die.
Before you die. That's always a help. I'm told half the people in the country still don't have a will. That half the people die without a will. Okay? And I understand the reason for that. If you don't have a will, you won't die. Jeff Burkhardt, many of you know Jeff Burkhardt, he told me the other way to live forever. Promise to give your money at death to Concordia University. He says, those people never die. They just keep going and going and going. So, anyway, Isaac doesn't really die until 20 years after this. But you never know. You never know. And in fact, in the ancient world, any sickness could lead to death. We usually say, oh, I have a bad cold, I hope I'm over it in a couple of weeks. Back then, you get a cold and you might be dead. You know, they tried medicines and things. But so anyway, Isaac is suspicious. He says, the voice sounds like the voice of Jacob. Not like the voice of Esau. And so Jacob doesn't even try to hide his voice. What does his mother say? If Dad catches you, let the blood guilt be on me and not on you. But she's conniving to have her favorite or favored son because he'll take care of her. Does he? No, he takes off up to Uncle Laban's, and so she doesn't get what she wanted either. And as far as I know in the entire story in Genesis, Jacob never inherits anything from his dad. You know, it's not like he got the 2/3 that we would think he ought to get. He fled, and Esau is later down. Oops, I'm sorry. Esau is going to be down over in this area, and he seems to take most of Dad's possessions. So anyway, Jacob gets in there first. He gets the blessing. He's got all these clothes that are put on his hands and everything. Then Esau comes back from hunting, gets everything ready, the nummy food for Dad, who is going to bless him before Yahweh, in the presence of Yahweh. All right? So this is not just, let's have a nice meal. God, in essence, becomes the lawyer who witnesses the will. So this is going to be something big. And throughout the history, I mean, what do we get? Did Jesus leave us anything?
Yes, eternal life.
Yeah, but what else did he leave us?
Holy Spirit.
What else?
Lord's Supper.
Lord's Supper. The Maundy Thursday event is the final meal where he says, I'm leaving all of you, my body and blood, to strengthen you until we see each other again. It's major. That's why I asked and got the blessing of the congregation, both at Bethlehem and here, that we have Holy Communion every service every Sunday. For Protestants, the high point is the sermon. You know, give us a moral teaching or give us some, word of faith or something like that. But the high point is when the Lord says, I'm welcoming you into my presence. Everything else is preparatory to us understanding we start out in the middle of nowhere and we end up at his banquet feast. This is the covenant that I give you, shed in my blood. So that's the kind of concept of what we have going on here. I don't think that Esau and Jacob were thinking about Holy Communion. All right? As we back in the future, look at what we know and don't guess too much at what we might anticipate. That's where I think we can get into some trouble. But certainly the kind of meal concept that's there is going to be involved. And so we're told that Esau asked for a blessing. What's the blessing? Well, you're going to wander. Someday you'll overcome your brother, but right now you're going to wander. It wasn't really a whole good blessing from Dad, but that's the one he got. Two questions now. Well, there's probably more than two questions, but what are the two reasons why Jacob is going up to Uncle Laban's?
Run away from Esau.
Run away from Esau is number one, so he doesn't kill him. And number two?
Get away.
Get a wife
From his own. From his family.
from his own people.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen with the 12 kids. Okay, with Joseph and his brothers, that's not going to happen. Judah is going to have a wife from the neighborhood. Jim, question?
Well, in this setting, it's Rebecca who is the one who's, she overhears.
She hears the plot.
Right, and then she reports it.
Yep.
And then on this last thing, she's the one that says, I'm sick and tired of these local Hittite women. I would rather die than see Jacob marry one of these.
Yep. Now, when he went, think back to when Abraham's servant went in chapter 24. When Abraham's servant went, what did he go along with? What went with him?
Riches and wealth.
10 camels loaded with loot to give as the bride price. What did Jacob go with? Nada. Nada. Nothing. He's got something, he doesn't even have a pillow. Has to use a stone to lay his head on where he's sleeping that night. So he has nothing, which says to me the bigger reason was not just get a wife from back home. Then Rebecca ought to know how her brother's eyes lit up when all that loot came and send something here. So Jacob goes with absolutely nothing. He doesn't even get any inheritance to go be the bride price. Why do you think he's going to work for 20 years? Or 14 anyway. He leaves then. In chapter 28, we're told Esau tries to get mom's good side by marrying one of Ishmael's daughters. So Abraham's other son is around somewhere. So it's kind of like a half cousin or whatever it would be. So then we get to chapter 28, and as he is going away then, Jacob goes to a place called Bethel. Now Bethel, I'm not sure if it's on here exactly. Yes, it's right here. Right here. Jerusalem is here. Bethel is up here. So it's not too far away. Beit El means house of God. It was called Luz, L-U-Z, beforehand. So it gets this connotation now. People used to worship where they thought they were experiencing the blessings of God. Many, many years ago, among the places that I went and taught for Concordia, I was teaching down in Cedar Rapids. And this was a Friday night class and a Saturday morning class. And it was with our program where people who were teaching in Lutheran schools needed some courses to finish up and get their colloquy, and we were going down to them. And so I was driving down on Friday morning to get down there after my probably Hebrew class that I had on Friday. And I got down as far as Zumbrota. Maybe you've been on that. Is it 52? I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I've been by there many times since. But I was tired. I was looking for a place to pull over. It's in the morning, but I was tired. And I don't know if they taught you this in driver's training. They say don't fall asleep while you're driving. I don't remember if he taught me that or not, but I did. And the road goes curving just a little bit, just before you get into Zumbrota. So I woke up bouncing in the median. There were no barriers, there were no culverts or anything. I remember a guy up on top just kind of shaking his head like, what's the matter with you? It woke me up. Yeah. And then I just pulled back on and I had a bunch of dead grass in the bottom of the car. If I were in the ancient world, I would buy some land right there and build a shrine where God spared my life. And there are 2 other places in Michigan I would do the same thing. Okay? One of them was a wet day when a lady came around, all 5 of us in the car, and a lady came around a curve at the corner at the county line and was in my lane. And I had to head off the side of the road and missed a tree. And the other one was somebody who did the same thing when I was taking the kids roller skating. And there I had to veer. And so those are my 3.
That
Okay.
should be enough, huh?
Well, there are a couple others I couldn't name. But yes, Connie?
When we went to the Holy Land, there were all these, I thought were like little churches, you know, alongside the road. At first I thought they were fancy birdhouses,
Yeah.
but they said that's where people put little prayers. Is it similar to what we do when there's a death on the highway or whatever?
When
We
people
put
put a cross
flowers
up.
and stuff like that across?
Yeah, though the cross and the flowers would be kind of just the opposite. You know, remembering the person who died there. Whereas this would be more, I was in the presence of God and lived. And I survived. But anyway, that's the reasoning behind something like this. So there are two theories. There's more than one theory about every single thing. There's all sorts of people. But at Hatzor they found about 5 or 6 or 7 of these stones. They stand maybe about as high as the table, kind of round. Some of them have inscribed or drawn pictures of people. And some people thought that this is the symbol of the God in the presence of the minor deities who were surrounding him. I've seen something else that I'm kind of intrigued by that would say that what you put up a pillar for is with your face on it. So that because you think the God is there, he will remember you because he sees you when he comes down to look around. Sort of like when we would go over to Grandma Kirstein's house. I always wanted to make sure that my picture was still in the window just by the doorway. You know, if I was gone, then Grandma didn't care for me anymore. Well, my picture was always still there. All right? And so, what do you see? One of the things when I go visit people's homes, I see their pictures. That's one of the most important things people want to share. Here's my family, and look at this one and look at that one. And I have looked at just hundreds of pictures of family, children and grandchildren, and that's someone's life, you know. And so one or the other of those. But Jacob sees the divine beings going up and down on a staircase there. Later, much later, we're going to see it in the springtime, there are people who say that's where we ought to be worshiping, not in Jerusalem. Because that's where God appeared to our ancestor Jacob and told him, you're going away, I will bring you back. So that's what's going on at that point. Chapter 29, he gets to Haran and he asks for Laban. And this sounds a little different even in terms of which well they were using. Because now there's a big lid. Remember when Rebekah was taking care of the camels for the servant of Abraham, how she goes down into the well and she goes and gets the water. This one sounds like before you do that, somebody has to take the